Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Tatiana Chiocchetti, and I'm the Executive Director of the Key Biscayne Chamber of Commerce. And I would like to welcome everybody here to our 2022 Village Council Candidate Debate that we're co-hosting with Islander News. And I have to give a huge shout out to Justo Ray, who always does so much for our community and really works hard to make these events a success. So thank you, Justo. So this is a really important opportunity for Key Biscayne residents to learn about the candidates as they discuss their vision for the future of our village. So and now I'm really delighted to introduce our 5 candidates in alphabetical order. Andy Herrera, Ed London, Nicholas Lopez Jenkins, Oscar Sardinias,
Evening,
and Fernando Vasquez. So keeper Ale Fadel. Ale has graduated from Mass Academy last year, where she worked at the staff of the Beacon, which is Mass newspaper, and she's interned at the Islander News. She will start at NYU in January. So congratulations, Ale. Nice. And thank you for being the timekeeper this evening. So while on the subject of time, I would like the audience to please refrain from applause and/or reaction during the debate in order to respect the time allotted for the candidates. And also please turn off your cell phones, watches, anything electronic that beeps and makes sound. And on that note, I'd like to turn it over to Sergeant Hernandez, who will lead us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Please stand up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sit down. Thank you.
Now, before we get ready, you have to listen for a couple of words with me. But good evening, buenas noches. My name is Justo Rey with the Islander News. It is an absolute pleasure to co-host this event with the Key Biscayne Chamber of Commerce. I would like to take a second. We kind of pay each other compliments. I would like to take a second to thank Tatiana Chiocchetti, the Executive Director, fan club, and for the work getting us to this point, ladies. Thank you very much. We're excited for this opportunity to bring these 5 candidates together. I would like to thank them, gentlemen, for being here, taking the time to be here, and also for stepping up for the community. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Justo.
Now, now it's my job to introduce the moderator. He is back by popular demand after the great job he did moderating our August or July?
July.
Majority debate. His name is Steve Small. Steve, welcome. Thank you. A little bit about Steve. For those of you who did not watch the majority debate, Steve is a Vice Provost Emeritus at FIU's Biscayne Bay campus. He's also an Associate Professor at the Chaplin School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. Steve came to FIU as a transfer student from Penn State. First sign that he's a bright guy. You know, Penn State weather, Miami weather, and he earned his Bachelor of Science in Hotel and Motel Management, and subsequently earned a Master's in Science in Hotel and Food Service Management. Over his time at FIU, Steve has served as a fundraiser, the Dalai Lama Committee, and as the MC for several university events, including as auctioneer for the United Way live auction that they do. Welcome, Steve. Thank you for being here. It's now your show.
Is it? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening. We're going to be very efficient about this. Let me just give you the rules of the debate, please. The candidates will have opening statements, 2 minutes long. The order was determined by a draw, so I will introduce them as per what the draw was. I will present the issues from the questions that were developed and are in your brochure. So there are no gotcha questions. All the candidates know the potential questions. They just don't know the order. That's it. So there's no surprises, gentlemen. Feedback from the community, the Islander News, and the Key Biscayne Chamber teams have prepared these questions. on topics that affect our island. Questions will be directed to all candidates. The candidates may use a portion of their answer time as a rebuttal for previous comments, but they only have that set time. At the very end, the candidates will have a 2-minute closing statement each, and again, the order will be inverse from what it was at the beginning. So there's no surprises, gentlemen. And so let us begin. There are no other questions. By order of draw, Mr. Sardinas, you will go first.
Thank you, Steve. A couple of things. First of all, who's to fail to mention that Steve is a proud grandfather of 2 granddaughters and 2 grandsons. That's amazing. I wanted to thank everybody for coming here. It's important to be here and to get to know the candidates, and I truly appreciate everybody's involvement to coming in and taking a closer look. I wanted to thank everybody sitting up here with me. I've made some friends along the way. I wanted to thank Ed London for her service, and to still want to jump back in. That's incredible or ridiculous, not sure. Still, the jury's out on that one. But effectively, a little bit about me. I have been here since '84. My story is one of realizing what community was and what this place introduced me to, something I had never seen before. My story is I am the oldest of 3 men. My parents had incredible instinct to bring us here and show us a different type of lifestyle. Shortly thereafter moving here, we suffered an almost tragedy in our family, and our community, or this community, showed up at my front door. And I had never seen anything like that before. Hence, I was introduced to community. Since that day, I made a very intentional decision to give back to this place and to fight as hard as I could to come back once I left for school and career. And so here I am. What I've done with that, currently I am the proud president and founder of an after-school enrichment nonprofit that donates funds back to the school so that our children have a better opportunity to excel. I was appointed on the Educational Advisory Board and on the Educational Excellence School Advisory Committee. Funny, my parents tell me to stop doing free stuff. I can't help it. I love this place. I'm here to bring thoughtful consideration to every decision that comes and to help this community continue to strive the way it has. Every single one of you live here because you found a place that is amazing. I appreciate you to be here, and I pay homage to the people that were here before us that made this place as beautiful as it is. While there are things that we can do better, I come from a place of very much optimism and a place that I just want to continue to perpetuate for our kids and our grandkids moving forward. Thank you for being here, truthfully, wholeheartedly, from the bottom of my heart, and please do everything you can to get as close as you can to every single one of us up here, because the future of this community depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second presenter is Mr. London.
Thank you very much. My story is a little different. I basically sold a business and decided that I wanted to get in the sunshine. I was tired of being in the cold, gray skies of Philadelphia. And my people, friends, everybody said, "You're nuts. You're going to leave. You don't know anybody. You're just going to move to a place." I said, yes. I knew a gynecologist, which was good, because he fixed me up with all these girls. So I met all these women. But more importantly, just joking aside, the most important thing was that everybody was so friendly. And all of a sudden, in fact, my first time here, I had a Hobie cat, and somebody said to me, what are you doing? I said, well, nothing. He said, well, I want to go sailing. I said, sure. And he's going to come sailing with me. And then he called and said, I can't go sailing, because that was my gynecologist friend. I delivered this baby, and they're now having a party. It's Sunday. So I said, oh, forget it. And then he went there and he told the woman, he said, I can't, I feel terrible about it. My friend, she said, don't worry about it. Why don't you invite your friend, since he's new to Key Biscayne? It's a brunch. It starts at 11 o'clock in the morning. I said, great. I went there. I left at 2 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden, I've had all these friends, and you probably know this guy, Willie Baroto and Marilyn Baroto, and they've been my lifelong friends ever since. But what I'm really trying to tell you was a welcoming attitude. It was just terrific. I didn't know anybody when I started, and within time, I had all these friends, and since that time, I had more friends and more friends, and I just been, did you have to stop?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, make a long story short, I've been on council. I'd like to be on council for 4 more years. I think I've helped. I think I've contributed in the past. I look forward to doing it again, and I'll talk later. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next presenter is Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you very much, Steve. And I wanted to thank the Chamber and also the Islander News for this great opportunity. And I think to echo what Oscar was saying, make an effort really to get to know all of us. We really want to get to know all of you. I personally do, and just get to know the issues and what we're talking about. I wanted to just kind of tell you a little bit of myself a little bit. And my wife is here, Marcela, has been my partner for 22 years. We moved from Argentina into Boston. I'm originally from Boston. Parents were Argentinian, got married in Argentina, and we moved here. We moved in the cold winter of Massachusetts, and I was working down there, or up there, on a lot of underground projects. The Big Dig was one of them. I'm a civil engineer by trade, professional civil engineer, and we got really tired of the cold, so we decided to move down to Florida. We moved down, and she moved first, and she got a job first, and then I came down, and I was looking for a job, and the city of Fort Lauderdale called me, and I became their assistant city engineer, working for parks projects. Then after that, I ended up working for the city of Dania Beach as utilities director, ended up working for Miami Beach. Then at Miami Beach called me the day that my daughter was born. I got a call from them, and they wanted me to be the city engineer. So I moved up there, and I became the director of transportation, director of environment, director of capital improvement. So I developed this really, I think, this really strong experience and a lot of lessons learned that I feel that I can bring into the community. And that's what I really want to do. I want to bring all this experience. I'm a civil engineer, and this is what I know how to do. And I'm here, and I really want to be your council member. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Herrera.
Good evening, neighbors. My name is Andy Herrera. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your participation and your input, listening all these great gentlemen. I'm happily married to my wife, Annie. We have 2 children. One is a 7-year-old, Luca, and a lovely princess named is Emma, 1-year-old. So we've been living in Key Biscayne for over a decade, and we feel part of this community. We are engaged in different activities, social activities, and providing support to local organizations. I was born in Cuba. I came in my 20s looking for freedom, looking for a democracy, and I found this great country that opened their arms to me. I went to New York, I went to college, and I worked hard, 3 jobs, sleeping 2 hours a night, trying to achieve a degree, trying to gain knowledge, trying to learn English, and I did succeed. I decided to move down to the warm weather, and here I am. After years of hard work, I met my wife. I've been married for 13 years, and she's really living. Also, she's Cuban, and she was able to succeed. She opened her own business in our village. She contributed to our economy, and we are very successful. And a business consultant, and thank God, God is good, and we feel that we have to pay back to the community. So I'm going to be straightforward. I am running for council. Why I am running for council? We need to preserve and protect this community. We need to protect the future of our children and the golden years of our seniors. We're having a lot of difficulties right now in the economy, inflation. I am extremely concerned about the decisions that have been taking place here at this podium at the village council. We need more transparency. We need more accountability in our government.
Thank you. And our final presenter is Mr. Lopez Jenkins.
Thank you very much. I'm Nick Lopez Jenkins. I'm running for council, obviously. Started visiting Key Biscayne in the 80s, moved out here as a young professional in the 90s, and basically been here ever since. What do I like about Key Biscayne? I like being able to drive my daughter to school in the morning in my golf cart. I like that my dad has somewhere to go have coffee with his friends in the morning at the Golden Hog. I love the community center, being able to work out there with my wife and being able to take my kids there for the programs that they have for them. I love the Village Green, the playgrounds. I love the fact that we have the best place to ride bike in all of South Florida. I love the fact that we can walk our dog at 2 in the morning and not have to think twice about it. I also love everything about the people here, the engagement. To Ed's point, it's been a very welcoming community. In the start of this process, I was real nervous to go out there and meet people I had never met before. And I've been stunned by the openness of people here. That being said, we have to work, me and my wife, really hard to live here. It's not inexpensive to live here. We pay a premium to be in Key Biscayne and enjoy the things that we do. And I want to ensure that this place stays what it is. It keeps the character that it has. And to that point, like I said, we have a lot of issues coming up in the future, a lot of capital projects that obviously as a council we'll have to deal with. That being said, those projects are important, but it's also important that we keep the culture that we've been able to establish over the years in Key Biscayne. I'm dedicated to doing that. I'm dedicated to doing that with whoever else wins these seats. And I want you to know that, like I said, as all the others, I encourage you to come, reach out, come meet us. I think we have a good group here. I think there's some good choices for you guys. And like I said, I'm looking forward to tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Terrific. Opening statements. Okay, so we're going to get right into the questions. So the first question that was selected is this. The village's Volunteer Strategic Vision Board recently adjourned after developing a vision for the future of Key Biscayne. So this is a three-part question. First, what are your thoughts on specific aspects or the entirety of that vision plan that is going to be presented to the council? Second, your overall opinion of the process that was used to receive residents' input and how the plan was developed. And then finally, did you participate or attend any of those public meetings? So we will start with Mr. Herrera.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for your question, and thank you for the opportunity tonight. My simple answer, it is an excellent public exercise. I thank you to the committee members for the volunteer services, and I think that the committee represents a good cross-section of Mike Davis supporters. Seriously, it was a good community engagement regardless of who led it and what it produced to the policy suggestions. It has no legal standing or force of the law, so it is not my choice to judge it. I do have thoughts about the process. Whatever I do or I do not agree with the actual vision, it's not up to me, but up to you guys to judge it. Voters who are on the current charter will vote for it before the first shovel is put into the ground. My concern, the importance of our charters in this process, which outline the terms of every candidate standing before you tonight. In this case, of the Key Biscayne Vision Plan, and we use variances required for construction, we go through a rigorous process of public referendum. The outcome of that referendum will hold force of law, and every member of our community will have full voice and vote that into the law. But that process is under attack. Under 4 amendments, the entire referendum process is removed and replaced by 5 members of the village council sitting in judgment. Only 5 affirmative voters replace the 8,000 legal voters of our residents. And while supporters of 4 amendments say this referendum process is too burdensome and we should not trust the government, remember, I say these changes will outlast every village council to come. So while you may not love and trust your current council members, that will happen if a developer carefully manages to slow gain 5 sympathetic voters over time. This is not a remote possibility. It is not uncommon when there is a great deal of development, pressure on a small community.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you. Time is up. Okay, same question for Mr. Lopez Jenkins.
I'd like that I answer the third part first. Yes, I was able to attend a couple of meetings. To that point, I want to thank the people that actually participated. Having met most of the people there, it's a tremendous amount of brain power in those sessions, and it's amazing how volunteerism is something that seems to be ingrained in this community. I mean, these are people that probably make, I don't know what they make when they're in professional lives, but they're donating their time for free to help create a vision for the village. Once again, to Andy's point, there's nothing in there that's binding or that has a force of law. It's the idea of what can be improved in the community. Some of the ideas presented I thought were very interesting as far as the retail sectors or whatever, but I think that we've been taken up to the point of thinking that these things have to be implemented. And obviously, this is going to be a process. There's no idea of eminent domain here or taking over anything. It's just adding ideas to a community that's full of brain power and harnessing that in a particular document. It's going to be showcased next week. I encourage everybody to come see it. I'm sure there'll be an opportunity for public comments. And to that extent, I think we need to reserve a little bit of judgment until the final product is presented.
Thank you, sir. Our next presenter is Mr. London.
Thank you. The vision plan is a dream. It's a dream of professionals who think this is the best thing that can happen to Key Biscayne in the future. You need a vision in order to plan to go forward to make things happen. Is it possible? Does this vision plan become reality? Well, most of the things I don't think will become reality in my lifetime, in your lifetime, or maybe the little girl back there's lifetime, because it really requires the demolition or the destruction of all the commercial space and raise it up and has a whole plan. And that could happen under one or two circumstances. One, the buildings wear out and they're no longer economical to repair. Or two, we have a massive storm and it knocks everything down, we start all over. But hopefully neither one of those things happen. So to actually think that's going to happen soon is probably a mistake. The other thing is people got upset and they said, you know, we're going to have more density. We're going to have more people. We're going to put, I think, people on top of stores. We'll do this. But people don't know and people don't realize, and I was going to wait to the discussion on one of the charter amendments, is that we have a comprehensive plan with the state of Florida, which we filed, I guess, 30 years ago. And then we update it every 5-10 years. We just did it. And that has the densities that we have for the entire island.
Seconds.
And we cannot go ahead and increase those densities without going back to the state. And the last thing they'll do is want a barrier island to have greater density. So the fear of that happening is really unfounded. I can, more time?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The process was great. They opened it up to everybody. They had public meetings and a lot of participation. I thought that was tremendous. The final thing was, did I go to meetings? Yes, I went to a number of the meetings. Did I make a pain of myself a couple times? Yes.
Thank you.
Otherwise, no.
Thank you so much. Mr. Sardinius.
You know, first of all, I'm beside myself at the amount of time that volunteers took out of their day to spend almost 3 years to conceptualize this plan. Number one, arguably, it was the most inclusive plan and from a communication standpoint that we've had probably in the history of Key Biscayne. There was a website created. There were over 7,000 visitors on that website. There were over 700 surveys responded to. There was over a week of charrettes that lasted in almost an entire day, of which I participated in at least 4 of. It was incredible, in my opinion. I love the realism of Ed London. He's right in a lot of ways. A lot of these things will not be realized. But we don't plan and we don't vision on the things that we think we can do. We more focus on what we have to become in order to arrive at our goals. And this place is a place that every single one of you sitting in here has decided to make a living and to live and raise your children for here. And I, for one, think that this was an incredible opportunity for people from the community to feedback, to input, to put it on paper, and countless hours of people who do not get paid a cent
30 seconds.
to be part of this process. I think I answered all three parts. And I would just assert, please, people, get involved. Just look at it. Really look at it and ask the questions and ask the tough questions and make us respond to the ideas that we have. A vision is going to take us forward. It doesn't mean that we're going to do everything. It just means that we have an idea of what betterment looks like.
Thank you, sir. And now, Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to say, well, I mean, I would hate to have all these folks involved and paid so much attention and so much dedication and so much time to not have these things realized. I think that's our job as future council members to make sure that this roadmap that's been laid, it's been laid with a lot of effort and a lot of dedication by the public, that it gets done and it gets done properly in a way that it meets not only the needs of the future, but also retains the value and the character of our community. I think that the plan makes a lot of sense from the perspective of it incorporates key components, which are the management of traffic, the handling of stormwater, resiliency, which is key, looking into the school, looking into greenways. I think there's just a lot of valuable input on that. And whether it morphs into something different or it takes into that, I think that's a roadmap that we need to be conscious about and take it through. That's our responsibility, folks. We need to do that. I don't necessarily see any issues related to density. I mean, when you think about it and you look at the charter, even if folks would have any issues associated with density, you can always file a petition and have your own, if you want to dissent on that or whatever, or take it into a different path. We're a representative democracy here, but at the same time, our elected body or elected folks have a capacity to take that and take it in the path that they want to take it. I have attended the meetings, I have been invited, and I have participated. And I tell you one thing, from a lessons learned standpoint, I've seen a lot of these master plans, a lot of folks that don't attend, and all of a sudden they say, oh my God, all of a sudden they see it in print, and they all feel like they have not been part of the process. Wrong. There's a lot of people that have been dedicating time on this. We need to make sure that this thing gets done, and that's what I'm here for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, question number 2. Let me set it up. Managing the relationship on the other side of the causeway with other entities such as Miami-Dade County and the City of Miami has come under scrutiny over the last year, from the attempts to privatize the Rickenbacker Causeway to the homeless encampment proposal on Virginia Key. So this is a 2-part question. First, if you had been seated on the council as these issues arose, what, if anything, would you have proposed differently than the present council did? And second, what experience or relationships do you bring to the council which could help the village move these relationships forward? So we will start this question with Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you. Okay, as former engineer for the City of Miami Beach, I worked extensively with the City of Miami. I worked on causeways, the Julia Tuttle, the 395. I've dealt extensively with stakeholders throughout Miami-Dade County and adjacent communities. So I'm very familiar with what it is to work with the process and how it is to have a seat at the table, as some folks say, or just be part of the discussion. It's critical that we're part of the discussion. One of the things that I really want to talk about the causeway is that people are really not really paying attention to the numbers. I mean, this is a minor arterial that handles about 60,000 vehicles per day, and these are the numbers. You can check them on my DOT. There's only 30,000 vehicles that go all the way up to Virginia Key. After that, the vehicles get reduced to 15,000 vehicles. The reason why it fails right here is because the capacity gets decreased. You telling me it's a good investment model to bring MDX when MDX handles 826, 395, 196? They carry 135,000 vehicles per day. Tell me that 30,000 vehicles is going to create a good business model to bring in MDX. No, folks, that's not, if you've been into P3, it's not privatization. That word does not exist anymore. It's P3, public-private partnerships. If we're thinking about bringing them as partners, then we have to have an idea of what the revenue is going to be. 15, 20,000 vehicles are just not going to do it. We have to look at subsidizing. There's a great bill out there that was passed 2 years ago, the Infrastructure Investment Act by Joe Biden, and it's $1.3 trillion of infrastructure. With the issues that we had I'm sorry, I'll be quick, with Fort Myers and the decimation of that area, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of federal dollars. Let's capitalize on that. Let's look at federal funding. Let's stop thinking dreams about trying to bring, somebody go here and invest on on a big highway for us. It's not going to happen. We can look at subsidizing with federal money. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herrera.
Well, what I will do is very simple. I will establish a relationship with the neighboring governments, which is something that we don't have a relationship with any government at all. That will be number one priority, to connect with those representatives, to talk to them, to bring our issues forward, and trying to resolve the Rickenbacker Causeway issues in a better manner. So those are the challenges that we are facing today. There's no relationship from our current leadership with other municipalities. We have a weak leadership, very weak. So my experience, how I will be able to do things better, for example, we got the current issue with the homeless encampment. We have nobody able to find solutions into that. Hermanos de la Calle is a non-profit organization that helps the homeless in Miami-Dade County, different cities and municipalities. They offer some funds to take these homeless out from the streets and to place in buildings so they can have a decent life. Instead, City of Miami, they are offering them an encampment to live like animals. They are animals, they are individuals, they are people. So we offer, Hermanos de la Calle offered to David the opportunity and to the manager to work on it, and they did not reply to Hermanos de la Calle to accomplish, at least to talk with other municipalities. That's life experience. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next presenter is Mr. Lopez Jenkins.
Well, when it comes to this question about our relationships with our neighbors, I think I'm kind of uniquely qualified. I've actually been friends with Francis Suarez for about 20 years. He's actually endorsed me in this race. If you pick up an issue of the Islander next week, you'll see that. His endorsement is there. I spoke to him yesterday, and he agreed with me. He said, we are neighbors, and good neighbors, as Ed usually says, don't sue each other when something comes up. Good neighbors engage. They invite each other over for barbecues, and they realize that, you know what, we live on one continuous area. We're all South Floridians, we're all Floridians, and Miami, people in Miami love to come to Key Biscayne, and people in Key Biscayne love to go to Miami. So he is more willing and able to come and talk with us. I told him as soon as the election is over, we'll definitely be reaching out to see if we can put something together to get something moving, because there shouldn't be this acrimony between the two neighborhoods. Like I said, we're all one community in South Florida, and we need to come out and look for our own interests. So.
Thank you, sir. Mr. London.
From the technical part, I'm not an engineer, but I have built everything from a single-family home to a chemical plant as a general contractor. Developer put all kinds of improvements in as far as water, sewer, storm sewer, et cetera. So I have a little bit of knowledge in that field, maybe not as much as Fernando. As far as how do we go about getting what we want done, needing the cooperation of the City of Miami, Dade County, possibly the state of Florida. Well, the first thing we shouldn't do is what we did with the City of Miami. First thing we did with the City of Miami, when they want to have a boat show, we sued them. And we spent $1,300,000, and they laughed, and we accomplished nothing because we had no standing. We said, but it's a driveway to our house. You hear everybody saying it's our driveway. Well, you know what? It might be our driveway, but Dade County's road and City of Miami's boat show. The next thing we did was with Bearcut Bridge, and we basically insulted the mayor of Miami, Dade County, who came out here, and we really insulted him, and we made sure, but how we treated him, that nothing was going to happen with that. So my first thing is, where do we stand? What do we want to do? Put ourselves in their shoes. And you tap? Oh, I'm sorry. Put ourselves in their shoes. And if you're Dade County, what's the easiest thing to do? Privatize, get rid of it.
30
Let someone else-
seconds.
Okay.
Let someone else take care of it. Obviously, that's not what I like to do, but my major thing is I would lobby every county commissioner, every city commissioner, not just one lobbyist, but everybody. I think that's the best investment of our money, because we can't force them to do anything, but we can influence them. And we can make sure, like, people know you lobby things and you get things done. So that's what I would do. Thank you.
Time.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Sardinius.
So I'm going to mix a couple of answers here. Number one, Fernando, thank you for the realism. I think in negotiations, you need to know your position. You need to know the value that you bring. And with Andy, I assert that we absolutely do have relationships with our neighboring municipalities, 100%. And that was shown by Mayor Levine Cava helping us stop the Plan Z. I think that negotiation is repairing. I think negotiation is stopping to race to be right and finding what your position is, and more importantly, understanding the positions of those municipalities, which, by the way, exist as a grander ecosystem, which is all municipalities. At the end of the day, it's not that hard to find what we all want, and that is going to be a place where our families can thrive, where we can coexist, and where we can continue to communicate for the betterment of the people that live in our communities. I have a relationship with the mayor of Coral Gables, and there are great things that they've accomplished. Nick has a relationship with Francis that have also accomplished great things. Guys, we're not reinventing the wheel here. There are best practices. There are ways to find out how to get to a win-win situation. We stop trying to be right, we understand our place, and then we do everything in our power to add enough value to create leverage that will get people to listen to us. And we put together an amazing causeway plan, and one that, by the way, other new municipalities are looking to us. Little Key Biscayne, what does that say for our village team? They are spectacular, and they have done a great job. And I plan to perpetuate that.
Thank you. Okay, question 3. This is the biggest question of the evening. Gentlemen, you will have 3 minutes to answer this question, not 2.
All right.
Wow.
It's like Christmas.
Yeah. So as you know, village voters are being asked to vote on 7 amendments to the Village of Key Biscayne Charter. And let me just refresh all of you in the audience as to what they are. Number 1, to increase the threshold for capital projects to be approved via ordinance with notice to voters from $500,000 to $1 million. Number 2, the village debt cap, to raise the debt cap from 1% to 2% of assessed value. Number 3, allow debt cap to be exceeded if approved by voters. Number 4, allow land development regulation amendments to be made by a supermajority of the council. Number 5, establishing primary election for council members as it exists now for the mayor. Number 6, to require electronic public notice for things such as sunshine meetings. And number 7, to require an ordinance establishing supplemental open meeting requirements. So, gentlemen, could you please state your position on which of these 7 proposed amendments you support, especially numbers 2 and 4, and perhaps which you are opposed to any of these amendments, and why? Again, you have 3 minutes, so we will start with Mr. Sardinius.
Just to clarify, 2 was the debt cap, correct?
Sorry?
2 was the debt cap?
2 was the debt cap,
And
yes.
4 was primary
And 4,
elections?
allow land development regulation amendments to be made by supermajority of the council.
So debt cap, listen, guys, you know, preparation is everything. We already know, And I've already sent a clear message, the electorate, that we're looking to double down on our environment and our community. We approved a GO bond. That GO bond is a higher amount than our current debt cap. We know that the projects, despite the fact that we know the exact price, we know they're going to cost us more than our current debt cap. It makes absolutely zero sense to me to tie our hands behind our back and not be prepared for something that the majority of the electorate has decided to double down on. Number one. Number two, that GO bond, outside of just being a clear indication that we want to invest in our homes, was a message to the world and deep pockets that are going to be willing to help us, which I intend to go find, that we are serious about this investment. And that is very much a big part of this negotiation towards a win-win. So I am for increasing the debt cap to 2%, which, by the way, would still have us the most restrictive debt cap in all of Miami-Dade County when you talk about best practice. And please, let's not be audacious enough to think that we know better than all of them. Number one. Number two, with land use regulation, I do believe in representative government. I also believe in democracy and voting. But I also know that some of our zoning codes are complicated, not well written. And if you look at our zoning today, some of you might not realize that today's zoning code would allow a place like the Galleria Mall to add over 250,000 square feet of commercial space the way it's written today. Why haven't they used it? It wasn't economically feasible when it was written, but it's certainly getting close to that. So we need to do something, and we should definitely not tie our hands behind our backs to allow the council, which is your representative government, to make the decisions based on what you, the majority, want. However, I might add that density is something that's incredibly important to every single person sitting in here. And I would recommend that if this passed, the council would create an ordinance that would create the necessity to go to referendum for any increase in density. Because I think I speak for every single person up here, do not want additional density in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you. Okay, so starting with number one, the capital projects, increasing that to from 500,000, the threshold to $1 million. Let's check the Florida Statutes 287, the CCNA Act, that allows for municipalities to extend beyond those caps up to $2 million of construction. In my opinion, this is just a housekeeping or maybe a moot point, because if you grant if the Florida Statutes grants the council to do that, any council to approve projects at that level and not go RFQ, I don't know what the purpose of this is more than just housekeeping. On the debt cap, absolutely. I mean, obviously, you look at it. Folks, I'm worried about us being compliant. Our level of service is so poor with the stormwater when you think about it. Houses flood. We have issues related to reinsurability. We are exposed. And I don't think to the level we understand the level of exposure that we have if we don't get going with our stormwater. Nobody's saying go out there and build pipes everywhere. Let's take care of critical areas. Let's intercept some of the stormwater. Let's manage it appropriately. Let's get to a level of service, and obviously understand that that's going to be a little more than $180 million. I got to tell you the truth. That's the way it is. I'm not going to sit here and mince words with you. The debt cap to improve by voters, that's fine. I have no issue with that. I think, the only thing is that obviously there's always a possibility of referendum, and I do agree with Oscar that eventually if it gets to a point, there should be some form of resolution passed by the council that allows these things to go into a referendum to provide the public with additional checks and balances. I think that's only fair to do and obviously the right thing to do. On the land development, there is no threat that I've seen at all of any type of added density. What I've seen is that I've seen buildings that extend 2 floors, and the reason why is because we're in a flood zone area. obviously the water has to pass through. So if you think that just because you're looking at a couple of our architectural pictures that you're going to get more density out of it, we need to dig a little deeper. We need to find that out. And again, if there's an issue related to density, there's always a possibility of going into doing a petition for an added referendum. On the other threes are fine. Primary election for council, I would like to have gotten. I started campaigning early. I would certainly appreciate a little bit early campaign and other folks that want to get in and want to get to know people. I think that's a great thing. Again, and I have no issue with 6 and 7. The only thing is just that let's make sure that if we move forward with an added debt cap, that we first have a strong bond engineer that understands exactly what we're going to be doing, and that we know exactly what the plan is going to be before we go ahead and ask. That's my. I'm good. I'm going to yield the time to somebody else. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Herrera.
Well, in regards to charter proposal amendments, I will not support any of the charter amendments, and I'm voting for any of the charter amendments. Basically, why? This amendment will not improve the residents' quality of life. Instead, are designated to limit residents' oversight in the name of cost saving for our government. These amendments are taking away our voting rights from the electorate. Voters will be stripped from the little power that they have left. I am also concerned about the ethics, transparency of the Charter Revision Committee, how the committee was appointed, and the involvement of the committee members forming a political pact for the first time, along with the chair of the Vision 2040 Vision Plan, to influence the support of all the charter amendments, which we don't even know who drafted the amendments. We don't know, and we need to request that public record. And against the projects or ordinance threshold requirements, and against allowing capital projects under $1 million without public oversight. We're allowing to spend almost $1 million without public oversight. That will not happen. We don't want that. Amendment number 2 doubles the village council ability to borrow without public oversight. We are against that. To increase the capital debt from 1% to 2% of the total assessed value of the property on the village charter, we cannot borrow more than 1%, which equals to $90 million. Duplicating that to 2% is $180 million. We get more into debt. More debt means more taxes. We guys will be ending paying more taxes, higher taxes. We don't want that. Jumping to number 4, land development. This deprives all the public ability of the right to approve land and use of the zoning changes through referendum popular vote. Charter zoning need to be amended to allow development. So now we're doing something great.
3 seconds.
To propose a senior facility, affordable residential senior facility, and then the real reason is not for that facility. It's just to develop the 2040 vision plan. This is why they want to change the zoning, and we are against that. We must be against that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lopez Jenkins.
As far as the amendments are concerned, the only one that I would be voting against would be number 5. The idea, if you want to start campaigning early, you can start campaigning early. But the idea of having to go through a primary and spending additional money, and I've got a job, I've got a family, so I said this is enough. So this is like I said, I'm enjoying it. By the way, I love the engagement.
With you guys at the
I love all
corner.
you guys out there, even on TV. So that's the only one I'll be voting against. The other, obviously, the two that seem to be the most contentious ones are number 2, which is the debt cap. I do support raising the debt cap. I do insurance, both personal and commercial, and I can't tell you how many business owners that I deal with that brag to me about the level of credit they have available to them and the fact that they don't use any of it. So having access to capital for the village, I think, is very important. It doesn't guarantee that we end up spending it, although I said with the projects on the horizon, there's a good chance that we will. But having that there shows that we're serious to other players that might be wanting to support us in our projects, whether it be federal, state, other grants that we can get, so we can have skin in the game. As far as the zoning issue, I've talked to, or the supermajority for the council to change zoning ordinances. I've talked to a lot of people on both sides of this issue, and a lot of well-intentioned people are afraid of this change. And I could see their point to a certain extent, but we do live in a representative government. I think it's important that we don't govern by referendum, especially when it comes to matters that can become incredibly tedious. So I think that this will bring a bigger focus to who is voted on to council. If the big fear is that, you know, a five vote majority is going to change the entire dynamic, I think that people need to press their candidates as far as where they stand. Every election going forward is important to keeping the culture of this community alive. So I do support that, and I think that, like I said, it's incumbent on us to become more engaged every election going forward. And like I said, that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. London?
Thank you. First, I'd like to say the vision plan, when I commented on it, you might have got the idea that I thought it was a waste and when nothing was going to happen. Nothing could be further from the truth. I thought it was aspirational. I think there's certain things that can be done in our lifetimes in the foreseeable future. I was talking about things that couldn't be done in the foreseeable future. And as far as other people, in regards to could I influence or help influence our relationship with Dade County, City of Miami, I've been around for a long time, a very long time, and I have, without naming names, I have a lot of friends and a lot of contacts. Now, Andy, I want to tell you, I actually agree with you on something, and that is on number one, and that is the charter amendment raising from $500,000 to the $1 million level. I am for all kinds of financial restraints and and oversight on our management and our council. Not that they don't all want to do the best thing, but I also tend to see management tends to want everything, and it's not the way I think the business should be run. So any kind of oversight, $500,000, keep it there. Number two, village debt cap. If you look at our projected plan for capital improvements, including the storm sewer for the next 5 years, it takes $93 million. So the $100 million would do it, but we're going to have to raise the debt cap sooner or later. So we should do it now, get it done with, do it later, do it then. Might as well do it now and get it done with. It does the same thing. I think that another gentleman said that it says to the world we have the ability to raise the money to do the things that we want to do in the future. They said, if you pass the GEO bond, you're going to be a blank check, going to go out and spend all that money. We passed it. 2 years, we haven't spent a penny. We raise the debt cap to 2%. Doesn't mean we're going to spend any more or any less. We're just going to have the ability, when we need to do it without going back to another referendum, which people would probably vote for because at that time, they'll realize the value of it. Number three, instead of having a charter amendment, which is very cumbersome, if we need to, and the majority, we basically go out and say, fine, vote for it, we need more money. And if the village approves it, we have more money without going back to raise the debt cap through a charter amendment. Number four, zoning.
30 seconds.
Real quickly, zoning. There's a lot of fear in zoning and all these people and what's going to happen. I mentioned before, we have the comp plan. We have a density number. And to change that, we have to go back to the state with an amendment to our comp plan. And they are not going to look favorably on the barrier island, including more people. They want less people. So don't be afraid of that. And we are representative government. If you don't trust us, don't vote for us. Get somebody else who you do trust. But you trust us with the budget. Anyway, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, question number 4. We're back to the 2-minute answers. Question number 4. The Village Council recently approved by a 4-3 vote a new $36.9 million 2023 fiscal year budget that included a millage rate of 3.1533. So it's a two-part question. A, if you had been on the council, would you have voted to approve the budget or would you have voted against it? And B, please expand on your reasoning, and if you can, speak to what areas you would have asked the village administration to look into this for savings or restructuring. Okay? So, let's get that. Our first question will go to Mr. London.
Well, I have an unfair advantage.
Not
I was one
fair.
of the three horrible people who voted against it, and I would vote against it again. And the reason I would vote against it, because I believe it's excessive, I believe it's wasteful, and I believe we can operate the government more efficiently, and that's what I've been trying to do for the last 7.5 years that I've been on council. I've been restraining, I would say, many of the other council members from spending even more money. What areas would I do? We have too many employees. I'm not going to go tell you which ones right now, but if you look at the departments and you look at the thing, you will see that it's not right size. We just keep adding people, we keep adding overhead, and these things can be eliminated or, excuse me, or reduced. In government, there's a tendency you're spending somebody else's money. You don't look at it, you're spending your own money. And that's what we really have to concentrate on. And I look at it as I'm spending every dollar myself. And so as a result, I voted against it. I'll vote against it again. I proposed lowering the millage to 2.8 something. I came back and showed them how to save money. The budgeting we do is ridiculous. We say something should cost $1 million. We spend $900,000 that year. What do? We say next year it's $1.1 million. Instead of saying, well, we still have $100,000 left, we throw it into what I call the slush fund. I understand that's a bad term. So we call it the unassigned general fund. And we have, I think, $13 million
30
there.
seconds.
And we keep raising taxes when we still putting more money into that fund. Can I still talk?
30 seconds.
Thank you. So that's where I'm coming from. It's not only number of personnel in various departments, it's consultants. It's a lot of things we're doing. And we want to spend $1 million, more than $1 million on a consultant to coordinate something we're not even doing yet. I think there's so many things in that budget that we can eliminate and save a lot of money.
Time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sardinius.
Totally unfair advantage. 100%.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Because I appreciate all the time you've been up here
Thank you.
and doing what you do. And I hope you remain on, honestly. Balance is good. I think that Ed hits on a lot of great points. And honestly, I don't know that I would have the answer to cut the budget necessarily, but possibly repurpose some of those funds. When you talk about the unassigned general fund, it may seem excessive, $11 million. Let's look at what happened on the West Coast. Would $11 million be enough to rebuild if, God forbid, we had a Category 3 or 4 hurricane here? I don't know. Best practices say we should have 30% in reserve of what our total budget is. That would be $11 million. We then have another reserve of $4 million. So now we're talking $15 million. Is that enough? I don't know. I'm not sure. Are there programs that we could do that maybe weren't in the budget? Sure, absolutely. Have we come accustomed to a service level? 100%. You know, I come from a school of you get what you pay for. Some people call us entitled. I don't think so. I think we know how to live the good life. And I know that we
30
believe
seconds.
in reinvesting in that. I don't really have an answer with regards to cutting it. I will say I might have looked a bit closer, but I do know and I feel very faithful that there were several people on this council that looked at that budget incredibly closely. I won't say names, but I saw it, and they spent a lot of hours looking into it. I have to believe that our team at the village did a great job. And while there might have been something to be said about using some of those unassigned funds to lower some of our taxes, I will remind everyone that we have one of the lowest millage rates in the entire state of Florida and still have an incredible level of service here.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm not going anywhere. That's my position. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vasquez?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just to dovetail with what Oscar was saying, I think having been a staff member of a commission in Miami Beach and in Fort Lauderdale, we take directives from the commission, in this case, the council. And although I do applaud your really strong effort in making sure that we have frugality and we don't overspend, it really does. We need to understand the reality of it. When staff is given a directive and they're given a directive to lower the millage rate, there's just a lot of activity that happens on that. You know, they huddle and there's just a lot of time. And I like to ask, you know, how much did we spend to lower down the millage rate? Only $75,000 to get to the 3.1 that we're talking about. So there's an offset on that. We have to be conscious. And really the point that I'm going at is not really just to touch on that point, but more in the sense of we really have to understand what guidance we give to staff. That is a lot, and that hits the budget because the staff listens to the council and they go and respond. So we have to be conscious about that, how we manage the management and the administration team. Frugality is critical. You touched on a point which is really important. I applaud you for that, which is, you know, the investment pre-event on any hurricane. The FEMA ratio is 1 to 3. For every dollar you invest right now, you save $3 at the tail end after post-event. Because to take care of something that's been absolutely destroyed, if you don't take care of it now, and if you don't understand what you need to take care of, you're going to pay triple
30
after
seconds.
the fact. So, we just need to stop being reactionary on these things. And I know that the council gets involved and there's a lot of dynamics and the manager's trying to respond to that. And it goes into the directors, it goes into everybody, and they spend a lot of time, more time than we would like him to spend on. I really like the way the staff has lowered it down. I like the restructuring that they've done with the budget. I think that holds accountability in different departments and distributes the flow of money the proper way. I don't see anything particularly wrong with the budget, with the exception that you know, we just need to manage staff better. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Herrera.
I did participate in every single meeting for this budget they proposed for the new year. So I stand there and I call the village manager that the budget was very irresponsible, and I am against that budget is extremely excessive. So we have the inability of our village manager to ask the department heads to look every single expenditure on that budget to reduce that, to be able to at least to use the money for other situations that we need, like in the improvement of the community center, or to do other things that are important for our community. I'm a fiscal conservative, and in light of the current and potential world economic situation, I believe that we need to carefully scrutinize our operating budget and the capital improvement plan. Although we are an affluent community, we are people that are well established. So I have spoken to many residents. I realized that we have many people, fixed income seniors living in fixed income, who are worried about tax increases. And then we are facing inflation. So we need to take that into account. I was not taking into account. We need to engage with the community. We need to provide them
30 seconds.
not 1 year time report. We need to inform you guys every quarter how we're doing, how we're investing our money, where we're spending the money. And this is the way that it should be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Finally, Mr. Lopez Jenkins.
I would have voted to approve the budget. I've never served in government. I've never served in elected office. So the way I judge government is by the end product, by the interaction that it has with the community. I have never encountered another government on any level that interacts as well with the community as the Village of Key Biscayne. You're always treated with a smile. The level of service is incredibly high. Police officers wave at you when you're driving down the street. You engage. You get up in front of council. You ask for something. I said I stood up in front of council in the first budget meeting and asked with other people that we may have a need for a special needs coordinator. And then by the next meeting, that was in the budget. Things in the budget for the village, you can go look at them and see them. If there's $75,000 to paint a building, go outside. The building's being painted. So I think it's important. I think local government is where you can follow the trail of money. If there's waste, I'm obviously against that. But the fact is that as an average citizen interacting with the village, I'm incredibly happy with the services that we provide. We can always do more. And to Oscar's point, this is not your basic community. This community has a high level of expectation. And people do that. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I work extra hard to be able to stay here and live here with my family, with my kids, and expect the best for them. And if I have to work harder to afford to live here, that's what I need to do. So that's my answer.
Thank you, sir. Next question. We're actually moving quite briskly through these questions. Question number 5. As a council member, what is your plan to seek resident input and involvement that often conflicts with new village thinking versus keeping ingrained village traditions? Let me repeat that, okay? As a council member, what is your plan to seek resident input and involvement that often conflicts with new thinking versus keeping ingrained village traditions? Mr. Lopez Jenkins.
Wow, okay. This question's a little abstract, but I'll try to answer it as best as I can. I think everybody that sits up here represents what this village is about. We love the fact of the community here. We're having new people moving here all the time, and it's a matter of assimilating people into the Key Biscayne way of life. If I've learned anything in this process, is that I don't know that much about what other people are dealing with here. So I've kept my ears open. I said, give an example with the sports fields. I had no idea there was an issue with the sports fields about the soccer players against the football players and stuff like that. I don't have kids that participate in that. But by engaging with people, you get to know that. So I will be incredibly open with people. I'll create dialogue. They can, like I said, call me, email me, reach out to me. I want to do this because I enjoy living here. And I want everybody else that lives here to enjoy it as much as I do, as my parents do, as much as my kids do, as much as my wife does. So I think that kind of answers the question you asked. Like I said, I don't know if that overlaps, but yeah, just an openness to dialogue with the community. I think that's important. I think the current council does that. I think it's kind of been very responsive. Obviously, there's always room for improvement. I think the village staff has been very welcoming to suggestions as well. So that's how I answer that question.
Thank you, sir. Mr. London.
Again, unfair advantage. People have been calling me all the time. People stop in my office all the time. I'm available to anybody to talk to. Might disagree with you. A lot of times I do. And I will tell you why. And then you'll tell me why I'm wrong. And sometimes I'll agree with them. I'm not always right. In fact, my wife tells me, Claire, she says I'm wrong most of the time. In fact, she's right all the time, but me, occasionally I am right. So I don't think I have to really do anything more, or anybody else here, because once you get elected and they know where you are and they know your telephone number, everybody's going to call you. So the communications is terrific. That's the beauty of a small town. Everybody knows everybody. If they don't know you, they're not bashful to meet you. And so I think it's a great it's a great opportunity for representative government, for input from our residents. So I wouldn't change anything.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sardinius.
Again, with the unfair advantage. Okay. So my daughter decides on whether or not she's going to go run an errand with me by asking me a question, and that is, Papi, are you going to talk to everyone that you meet? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. And so my daughter does not run errands with me. My neighbors. Look, accessibility is important. I'm a huge fan of communication and language. The fabric of this community has changed, no doubt. There are dozens of cultures living all here together, everyone. Maybe an idea, call me crazy, is create some kind of committee that is represented by every culture on the island. Let's find out what they like. I mean, I can't even believe you didn't mention that you were on the 4th of July committee. That's insane to me, because it's something that Nick stands for, and that is one of the most beautiful things that we do here as a community. But how do we get the other cultures to understand that love that we have for this flag? let's not be audacious. They also have things that they miss when they come here. Let's be empathetic to that. How do we do that? I don't have the answer, but I have some ideas. Be
30
available.
seconds.
Maybe office hours. My friend Vince Lago at Coral Gables, every Thursday in the office all day. Anybody can come in, open door policy. Why not? I can do that. My employer might not love it, but hey, if he wants me, he's going to want all of me, and that's me. So let's just reach out. Let's be empathetic. Let's not rush to be right. Let's allow everyone to express themselves in their very unique way. How do we do that? I'm not the expert, but I will facilitate the expert's ability to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, thank you. Look, I believe that in order to be a good public leader, you first have to learn how to be a good public servant. And you'll be a great public leader if you're a good public servant. I have an innate love for the public. I've always felt that way. I've been always, I don't mind the two. You can ask my wife. I've stayed long hours during hurricanes, picking up, running from generator to generator, trying to pick up, lifting up the sewer again, or, going and talking out with some folks when there was light outs in South Beach, dealing with the police, with the fire being involved. In my walk arounds through here, I spend a lot of time with folks that, that feel very flooded, that get very flooded, not feel very flooded, with the Mackle homes. And, you get that sense of disenfranchisement from the community and how they are affected. And, my heart goes out to them because I really want to be able to help them. And that's how I feel with everybody. I'm here, and one of the things that I want to do is make sure that everybody knows that I'm fully accessible. You can ask my wife. I'm always on the phone talking with some resident about some issue and trying to resolve it. This is what I've done for decades. I was a public official. This was my responsibility. I feel it an innate sense that that's what I have to do. And I'm passionate about it. So I don't know. I mean, I do agree with committees to a degree. I think that needs to balance itself out because that does provide
30
participation.
seconds.
I was in the underground committee and I felt included. I encourage that to a degree because you can get too committed out and that can also create issues. But, to a sense, allow the public to be involved and to get their ideas. It's important. Thank you. And I yielded 1 second. I got left to Lynn. Just kidding.
Thank you. Mr. Herrera?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. This topic is very special for me, and it's very special for the hearts of our residents. Keeping up with our traditions, our way of living, our culture, the way that we interact with our neighbors is essential. But we are facing certain changes that are coming with growth and development, and that we need to address quickly. We need to protect the density in our community from our development. Those are basic rights that should not be taken away from the hand and will of our residents. An effective way to achieve is to maintain balances by voting no to Charter Amendment Number 4. The amendment allows land development regulations to be made by the supermajority in the council. So we don't want to increase and overpopulate our village that way. We need to protect our village and make our village nicer, a better community, and we need to engage in all the activities without changing the vision of our founders. So that would be really great if we can accomplish all these things,
30
maintain
seconds.
the character and lifestyle, combining with the growth of our community. We need to have a balance so we can maintain the happiness that we enjoy until today's date and for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, we've gone through the 5 questions that we've been asked to ask our candidates. So it is now time for conclusion. Ooh. We're going to be doing this in the inverse order of the way we started. So our first speaker will be Mr. Lopez Jenkins.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for attending, everybody who's watching on television or on the internet. I want to thank everybody else that's up here in the dais. I think this has been a constructive conversation. I think it's been informative. I think it's been well received from a standpoint of congeniality, which I think is very important for us to have in village government. I hope it comes through that where I'm coming from as far as my campaign is concerned is that I'm one of you. I have the concerns that the regular people here in Key Biscayne have. I want to keep our culture. I want to make sure that future generations can enjoy everything that we enjoy right now. Like I said, I have my parents here, I have myself here, I have my children here. And it would be a shame to think that we would lose what we have here because this doesn't really exist in too many other places. So I'm a hard worker. I worked in the cafeteria and mopped floors in college. I got my MBA when I was, a professional working at night. And marathon runner. So I know what it takes for dedication and hard work. That won't be an issue. Anybody that's met me knows that I'm a people person, that I tend to get along with people. People I meet tend to like me, even if I don't agree with them on everything. Because I don't think it has to be disagreeable, especially because we have so much in common here. I mean, so much binds us where I think the issues that we have are dealing with things on the edges. Because I think, honestly, we're all here for a reason, because we love it here. So if you vote for me, you'll have somebody that's hardworking, somebody that will dedicate themselves to doing the job, to making my wife proud, my parents proud, my neighbors proud, my friends proud, hopefully the community proud, and it'd be something I can look back on and be thankful that I did. So thank you for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Herrera.
Okay, this is the end. So thank you for hosting us on this debate. And thank you to the people of Key Biscayne. Thank you to the people that are watching us on TV, to our families. I only have one closing statement. I will be your champion in our village council, if you let me. I will be open, transparent, and easy to reach. My agenda is your agenda. And together, will make Key Biscayne even a greater place to live, to work, and to recreate. We have many challenges ahead of us, in front of us, and really ready to face them with my knowledge, dedication, and with your input, your participation, and your support. I ask for your vote on November 8th. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vasquez.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I want to thank everybody for attending, all the folks that are watching as well. Thank you for watching, and thank you for this opportunity. I want to first state, we have a great, and I'm kind of echoing what everybody's saying, we have a very unique place. We're, like I said before, we're the last bastion of a small town USA. We're a very quaint town. We moved from New England, and what we found attractive about Key Biscayne was its quaintness, was the family orientation. Great families can grow here. They can grow together. They can grow safely. And, like Nick was saying, you can just, you don't have to go anywhere else. You can just be a Key rat and just enjoy life. But those are the same issues that brought us, that we become victims of our own success. Added traffic, issues related to drainage, issues related to, commerce, zoning issues. All these things eventually pile up, and if things are not done, they eventually, they just get bigger and bigger. So we have a big task ahead of us. We have kind of a programmatic task ahead of us, and we need to give space to somebody that understands how to do this, that it's been doing this for a long time and has dealt with highly complex issues, anything related to from utilities to traffic to population growth to zoning issues. Yeah, the whole gamut. These are not issues that you can just, grab and just plan out. You have to know how to work around them. And I bring that experience in. I bring solid experience, having been an engineer for 30 years, dealing with problem issues. I'm a problem solver. I'm a solutions-driven professional. I feel I can bring a tremendous value added to this council, and I look forward to your vote this coming November. Thank you very much for this great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. London.
Thank you very much. Someone said, am I a glutton for punishment? Am I stupid? Why am I doing this again? And maybe I'm both. Actually, I want the highest level of service. My wife would kill me if we didn't have the highest level of service. We'd move. We'd be unhappy. So even though you hear that I'm cheap, I'm an old curmudgeon, I'm a pain in the butt when it comes to the budget, I'm trying to reduce the millage all the time, I'm trying to eliminate jobs, I'm trying to do that because I want the best, but I want it to be efficient and I don't want it to be wasteful. I've started in business many years ago, and I was a manufacturer, I've been a developer, I've been a builder, I've been a president of an airline, and lots of other things, corporate boards, etc. And then for 10 years now, I've been involved with Village of Key Biscayne, except for the 2 years I wasn't on council. But the 26 years before that, I volunteered, and I was the Construction Industry Licensing Board, which is pretty efficient, had no big waste or anything. And I served there for about 4 or 5 years. And then I was the chairman of the Investment Advisory Board for the state of Florida. We managed all the pensions for all the school teachers, government employees, and they were really efficient. I thought, this is really good. My government's pretty good. And then it was Citizen Property Insurance Company. I was vice chairman of that, the founder
30
when it
seconds.
started. And basically, at that point in time, started getting a little bit inefficient. But then I got appointed by the governor, 3-person, to be the oversight for the Dade County School Board. We were in charge of all expenditures. And that's when I realized what waste was really like, what inefficiency was really like. So after driving myself crazy there, I got involved with Key Biscayne. And let me tell you, Key Biscayne, the school board, we're fantastic. But we're not perfect. We're getting better.
Time.
And I want to be reelected so we can get better and better. And I thank you all for coming. Thank you for having me. Thank you for tolerating me for 8 years. And hopefully you'll tolerate me for 4 more. Vote for Ed London on the 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And finally, Mr. Sardinius.
Unfair advantage? Just like 3 in one night. First of all, thank you, Justo, and the Islander for putting this together. Stephen, you have the voice of an angel, honestly. TV land out there, thank you for showing up. Thank you for doing the diligence. It's important. My supporters, I think I used the word overwhelmed by love. So thank you, because I wouldn't be here without you. My motivation is gratitude. My strength comes from family. I'm going to use this time to be very assertive about this. I would not be up here. I would not have accomplished the things that I've been able to accomplish both in business and personal if it wasn't for the rock of my wife. She is remarkable. Thank you, Joanne.
We're all in trouble now.
The input from the community is something that I will look for. I will listen. And despite the fact that I have all the admiration from a very top level from every single person sitting up here to take time out of their lives to do what some might consider a thankless job. And we get free pizza, you said, Ed.
Cold.
Damn it.
Seconds.
I hope it's thin crust.
It is.
Seriously, though, folks, all joking aside, I can't think of anybody that's going to work harder. I'm up here to make a difference. I have a lot of people to thank. I have this community to thank. And I really promise you I am going to do everything in my power not to let you down. And I will approach every situation with pragmatism and especially thoughtfulness. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, now it's my job to bring this evening to a conclusion half an hour early. Do I hear a woo-hoo?
Happy hour.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You people here in Key Biscayne are extraordinarily lucky because you have a conscientious group of candidates who really will represent you well, regardless of who gets elected. I'm jealous. I live in Hollywood, where the movie stars live, but it's another thing. We want to thank all of you for participating in the most important thing that we do in our communities, which is democracy. And this is an extraordinary example of a representative democracy. It can't be done without all of you, and we thank you all for that. I also want to thank Ms. Fidel, who is amazing. Finest institutions of higher learning in this nation. And good luck in New York. It's amazing. My mom and dad went to NYU, so I have a very special place in my heart for there, and you're gonna love it. It's great. Thank you all so very much. Have a very safe, have a very blessed evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we miss one topic, right? Yeah. Do we miss civility and local government? We miss civility and local government. That's why he ended it earlier.